It's been more than a year using the Vnetphone V6 intercom, and here's my review on it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So before we took our trip to Ladakh last September, Yash and I took a small trip to Ooty in last May. This trip was more or less a test ride to test all the accessories that we had got in preparation for our Ladakh trip. And one of these accessories was the Vnetphone V6. Now there are many popular intercom brands like the Sena, Cardo or even the Blue Hammer. But then the cheapest one is around 10,000 rupees. I was quite skeptical about using intercoms up until then because I've never used intercoms and I always thought it as a distraction. And most of the long rides I did until then were solo trips. But this time, since I was riding along with someone, I thought I'll try out the cheapest intercom available in the market and see if I like it. And if I do, then I thought I'll invest in a better quality intercom. So I got a pair of Vnetphone V6 intercoms for just under 6,000 rupees. It was around 2,800 rupees for one. And to my surprise, this intercom was so good that I ended up keeping it and using it for multiple trips over a period of 1 year. So now before I get into the pros and cons of the intercom, let me tell you about the features of the intercom. Vnetphone V6 is a Bluetooth intercom which connects up to 6 riders or 6 different Bluetooth devices. It has 6 different buttons to connect to these 6 different riders, a volume up and down button, a button to answer and decline calls, and a switch off button. It comes with 2 headsets, 1 mic, a main unit, and an attachment to connect to your helmet. So here are the pros and cons of the intercom. First, we'll come to the pros. Now, the first pro is obviously the cost. For less than 3,000 rupees, you are getting a bang for buck product. Intercom systems like Sena and Cardo start around 30,000 rupees, and even the Blue Armor starts around 10,000 rupees. So for having 90% of the functionality of those intercoms and getting it for 1/10 of the price of those intercoms, it's totally worth the money. The second main pro of the intercom is the audio quality. The audio quality and the intercom signal quality is very good. I usually use a earplug, 3M earplugs under the helmet to get rid of the wind noise while riding at high speeds. Even with those earplugs at 90% of the volume of the intercom, the audio is crystal clear. Even while making calls, even when you're riding up to 80-90 kilometers per hour, the noise reduction on the intercom is so good that the other person on the line on the call will not even realize that you are riding a motorcycle and talking to them. So the audio quality is very good for the price. The third main pro of the intercom is the range. The range is good enough up to 1 kilometer. That is, if you can see your riding partner at the far end of the horizon on a long stretch of highway, then chances are that you are able to hear them as well crystal clear. The only issues when the signal gets messy is that if you have a huge truck or bus between you and your riding partner, or when you are riding the twisties, if there is a hillside or a mountainside that gets in between you and the riding partner, the signal might get a little messy. But in straight lines, even up to 1 kilometer, even when you can see your rider at the very far end of the horizon, you can hear them clearly without any issues. The fourth main pro of the intercom is the self-healing nature of the intercom. Now, even though you can connect 6 devices or 6 intercoms to it and assign the 6 different buttons to 6 different intercoms or 6 different devices, you can use them only once at a time. So if you connect your phone and your rider, and you are continuously using the intercom, and once the rider gets out of range and it disconnects, it connects automatically to your phone so you can answer calls and all that stuff. And once the rider is back on the range, you don't have to manually disconnect the phone and connect the rider. It automatically senses that the rider is in range and disconnects from your phone and connects back to your rider. So this is very handy while on the move. So even if you are riding together and you suddenly drift apart and lose connection, you don't have to stop and manually reconnect the 2 intercoms. As and when the rider gets in the range, it will automatically disconnect from your phone and connect back to the rider so you can keep talking and keep moving ahead. The fifth main pro is the build quality. Now, I have used this intercom extensively in all weather conditions, and even in heavy rains during the monsoon, there is no issues at all. It keeps on working just fine. This is waterproof and dust proof. Now, the sixth pro of this intercom is the battery life. Now, the company boasts around 12 to 16 hours of battery life. The longest ride that we did till now was from Padum to Leh, which took around 15 hours. And during the entire stretch, it never ran out of battery. And to charge from 0 to 100, it takes less than 1 hour. Now coming to the cons of this intercom. The first is there is no universal connectivity. It is not a mesh intercom, so it connects to only intercoms of the same company and not to any other companies. The second main con is that you can connect to only one device at a time. Even though it allows up to 6 connections, you can connect to only one device and use or talk to that particular intercom or that particular device. For example, if you have connected two different intercoms, you can talk to one person only at a time. And if you want to talk to the other person, you have to disconnect this and connect to the other person. And if you want to talk back to the other person, you have to disconnect this and connect back to the other person. You can use this device only once. That means either you can answer calls on your phone and be disconnected with the other intercom, or speak to the person on the other intercom and not be able to use the phone. You can seamlessly switch connections, but you can't use them twice at once. Because of this, there is no music sharing facility or even call sharing facility, because you cannot connect your phone and the other intercom at the same time. The third main con that I noticed is the small buttons. Operating these small buttons with the gloves on makes it almost impossible to use them. Now, usually you don't need to use those buttons very often, because once it gets connected, you can just forget about it. And also, if you need to answer calls, you don't need to press the buttons. After 3 seconds of ringing, it automatically answers the calls. So most of the time, you don't need to use these buttons, but in case if you want to use it, then you have to stop and take out the intercom and face it, and then you have to use it. Because trying to use any of these buttons with the gloves on is almost impossible. The fourth con is that I don't think it is durable in the long term, because one of these intercoms developed a loose connection in one of the headset. So only one side could be heard all the time. Now this can happen to any headset wire. I think the wire got cut or something inside. We even tried to get a spare wire or a spare headset, but we couldn't find it anywhere. So even though the intercom was working perfectly, we had to throw it off because one side of the speaker stopped working because of some loose connection in the wire. So I wish it didn't happen, and I think in long term, it might not be durable. Now, who is this intercom for? If you are a team of two or if you are a couple, this intercom is the perfect choice. It makes riding long distance on the highways much more bearable, less boring, and you can have long conversations while you're on the go. Even if you're on separate bikes or if you're on one bike, it makes conversation much easier and communication much easier on the go. It also acts as a safety net for you to keep a lookout on each other continuously while you're riding. Intercoms in general make the ride a hell lot more fun and memorable. Or if you're riding solo also, this intercom works best. You can listen to music or podcasts just to get rid of the boredom while riding long hours on the highway. It will also allow you to make calls with great clarity. But if you ride in a larger group, that is a group more than two, then you would want to look into a mesh intercom like the Blue Armor, which lets you connect to multiple riders at once. Now in the next video, I will walk you through the helmet setup that I have, which helps you record the conversations that is happening in the intercom for motovlogging, so that the whole motovlogging experience is much better. Stay tuned for that video. That's it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. See you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.